Let me ask you about the most reliable person of your team. Maybe it's you. They never miss a deadline. They are always on. They reply to emails at 9 p.m. with a smile. When the pressure mounts, they don't crumble. They get sharper. You probably call this resilience. You might even call it high performance. But what if I told you that from a neurological perspective, this isn't resilience at all? What if this behavior is actually a specific biological state of fracturing? We spend so much time talking about quiet quitting, people doing the bare minimum, but the real danger in 2026 isn't the people doing too little, it's the people doing too much while slowly disintegrating on the inside. This is not burnout. Burnout is loud, it's a collapse. This is something silent, something hidden, and something much more dangerous for high performance. It's called quiet cracking. And today, we are going to look at the neuroscience of why the best people, or perhaps yourself, are breaking while you're looking perfectly fine. Hello, I'm João, and welcome to the H2H experiment. This is where we blend the biology of human behavior with the art of leadership to make business more human. If you're listening to this, you likely care deeply about performance. But today, I want to challenge the cost of that performance. By the end of this episode, you will understand the difference between a brain that is resilient and a brain that is functioning under allostatic load. You will understand why high functioning anxiety looks like leadership until the moment it breaks. And most importantly, I'm going to give you a specific experiment to check the structural integrity of your own leadership and your team before the crack becomes a canyon. Let's get into it. All right, let's start by looking into the why, the ancestral diagnosis. To understand quiet cracking, we have to look at our evolutionary wiring. For thousands of years, human survival depended on one binary rule: do not get kicked out of the tribe. If you were weak, you couldn't contribute. If you were a burden, you were at risk of exclusion. And in the ancestral environment, exclusion meant death. We have talked about it before, and this is one of the biggest drivers of human behavior. So, the human brain evolved a very sophisticated mechanism to mask the stress. When we feel threatened or overwhelmed, our amygdala, the threat center, fires. But our prefrontal cortex, the executive center, steps in to override it. It says, smile, keep moving, show value. If they see you're struggling, you are unsafe. Fast forward to the modern office, quiet quitting is a boundary. It's someone saying, I will do this much and no more. It's a conscious choice. Quiet cracking is involuntary. It is the high performer who wants to deliver and cares deeply, perhaps too deeply, but whose internal resources are depleting faster than they can replenish. They aren't disengaging because they don't care. They are cracking because they don't know how to stop without feeling unsafe. They are running on an ancient survival program that says performance equals safety. Now let's look at this from the neuroscience perspective, because I need you to understand that this is physical, not just mindset. We need to talk about a concept called allostatic load. When you have a stressful week, a big deadline, a crisis, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline to get you through. That's called allostasis, achieving stability through change. It's healthy, it's how we adapt. But when the stress never fully stops, when the deadline passes, but the emails keep coming, when the crises become business as usual, those chemical levels never drop back to baseline. This accumulation of wear and tear on the brain and body is the allostatic load. Here's the critical distinction between burnout and quiet cracking, because I know that it's a bit difficult to differentiate both. Burnout usually looks like hypoarousal. The system shuts down, you feel numb, cynical, exhausted, you simply stop caring. Quiet cracking is hyperarousal. It is high functioning anxiety. The nervous system is flooded with energy, but it's frantic energy. In a state of quiet cracking, the brain is working overtime to suppress the emotional reality. You are using your expensive cognitive fuel not just to do the work, but to mask the cost of the work. Neuroscience shows that chronic, low-grade cortisol exposure degrades the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and emotional regulation. So while the high performers look like they are holding it together, biologically, they are paying a tax on every single decision. They are borrowing energy from tomorrow to pay for today, and eventually the debt comes due. So now I want to share a moment where I was quietly cracking and I didn't even know it. A while ago, while I was leading a massive transformation project, the stakes were high, the timeline was impossible, and the team was looking to me for certainty. I remember a specific week. I was waking up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, mind racing through a to-do list. I would get up, open my laptop, and start working. At 9 a.m., I would jump on a call, put on my leader face, and project absolute confidence. My boss actually complimented me that week. He said, "I don't know how you have this much energy. You're a machine." Other people also made that comment, by the way. I smiled and said, "Just doing what needs to be done." But I wasn't a machine. I'm not a machine. I was a human being whose nervous system was stuck on the on position. I wasn't efficient. I was terrified. I was terrified that if I stopped, even for an hour, the whole illusion of my competence would collapse. I was receiving validation from a trauma response. The organization was rewarding me for cracking. I see this in so many leaders that I have had contact with. We praise the people who power through, not realizing that we are praising the cracks in the foundation. We are confusing high functioning anxiety with high performance leadership. So, how do we spot this? And most of all, how do we stop this? This is what we're going to bring in the H2H experiment of the week. This week, I want you to run an experiment called the energy leak audit. If you're a leader, do this for your team. If you're an individual, do this for yourself. The protocol. How does it look like? Quiet cracking happens when there is a dissonance between external output and internal cost. So, the step one, identify the reliables. Look at the people on your team, or look in the mirror, who never say no, who never complain, and whose output is consistently high. These are your highest risk candidates for quiet cracking. Step 2. Change the question. Stop asking, "How are you?" High performers will always say, "I'm fine," or "I'm busy, but good." Instead, ask this specific question. What is one task on your plate right now that is costing you more energy than it should? Or ask, if you had to drop one ball this week to save your sanity, which one would it be? Step 3. Watch the reaction. If they immediately have an answer, but look terrified to say it, you have found a crack. You have found a place where they are holding up the weight of the world because they think they have to. And then you take the action. Take that one thing off their plate, or help them lower the standard for it. Show them that it's safe to be human, not just a machine. And now let's wrap up this episode. Resilience is not about how much weight you can carry before you break. Resilience is about how well you can recharge. If we want to build human organizations, we have to stop rewarding the behavior that destroys humans. We have to stop applauding quiet cracking and start rewarding sustainable impact. I would love to hear what you find in your energy leak audit. Connect with me on LinkedIn or at the CXO and share your story. Are you building a future or just holding up the ceiling? I'm João, and this has been the H2H experiment. Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to have you with me in this journey. Keep questioning, keep growing, and keep experimenting. Bye.